Forest, Event Horizon. Dear viewer, do not imagine that you have ever been in the woods. Rather, you meander in a flat, two-dimensional world in which the silhouettes of trees lingered. You entered with a head full of the clamor of human affairs, the whine of machines, the noise of an intrusive virtual reality, mutilated images of your desires and fears. One early summer, a young man went for a walk in the Budmeren forest and primeval forest in the mountainous Murtertal region in the canton Schwyz, in the heart of Switzerland. He worked as a waiter at the hotel Alpenblick in Stalden. 3 years earlier he had arrived in Switzerland from Bosnia. His mother and father had been murdered during the war in the Balkans. He himself escaped death and was brought up in the orphanage in Zenica. His name was Sylvester, which in Latin means a man living in the forest. Already at the orphanage he had liked to hide in the bushes, shrubs and trees whenever he felt joyful or unhappy. The Swiss easily accepted him as a foreigner, as he had a very gentle character and talent for languages. He spoke German well and quickly learned the Swiss dialect of the canton Schwyz. Sylvester's humble nature was due to the mental fatigue of a battle between the spiritual needs of one world and the terrible memories of another, rather than the innate character of his mind. One day, during the midday break between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., he took the opportunity to dream in solitude in the wide forest of a world full of extraordinary events. He rode his bike up the Pragel Pass, a steep and winding road that requires fitness and strength. For the last 3 years he had been practicing cycling on a rough terrain almost every day. He had spent his first salary on a second-hand mountain bike, dark blue and in excellent condition. He liked the effort of pedaling uphill. Each time he was a little quicker and more proficient. The journey to the Budmeren forest took him only 20 minutes. He left his bicycle as usual under the great spruce with the powerful trunk and magnificent crown that he affectionately called dear friend. Now he still had 3 hours to himself to walk alone in the woods. Budmeren Forest is a forest reserve where spruce grow on limestone. The virgin forest has remained wide and intact due to the unusual terrain. meaning that it wasn't suitable for alpine pasture. Deep gutters, sinkholes, chimneys, and cars' funnels pierced the forest with channels and chambers, and permeated deep into the one of the world's longest caves beneath. The Höllå, or hellhole. On paths trampled by chamois, ibex, and roe deer, Sylvester penetrated into the forest. He trod carefully, not to fall into the holes overgrown with roots, moss, ferns, and juniper bushes. He wore light trekking shoes so that he could walk easily along the rocky animal trails, which were sometimes only 1 foot wide. The climate in the Budmeren forest at altitudes above 1,500 meters is quite severe. There are often torrential rainstorms, and even in summer snow may fall. Sylvester usually carried his favorite olive Gore-Tex jacket. Today was a beautiful sunny day. The wind was blowing from the west, but it was quite cool in the shade. He pulled the jacket from his small beige backpack and put it, leaving it unzipped. Moving away from the road, the forest thickened and became mysterious and silent. Old fallen trees covered in moss resembled living creatures. Sylvester avoided them cautiously or climbed over them carefully. He went on and on. He felt so much at home that his body began moving by itself through the wide vegetation. His mind wandered far from his surroundings. Memories of his early childhood took hold of him. He was 6 years old when his mother took him on holiday to Josanica, near Koniec, a village in wooded mountains, a bit like Młototal. His mother was born and raised in Koniec in Bosnia-Herzegovina. It was only after she married that she moved to Zenica, where her husband ran a shop selling textiles. Sylvester was born there, but his mother never stopped longing for her home. She loved the mountains and forests. Often she and her son went back to Koniec, spending the days together in the surrounding mountains, and that had also been his last holiday with Mom. He always loved it when she took him on long walks in the woods and spoke so beautifully about the trees. This time, however, there was not only gladness in her eyes, but also fear. Remember, Sylvester, evil is only in man, never in the forest. In April of the following year, in 1992, the Bosnian War broke out. At that moment, Sylvester grabbed a tree trunk. He had nearly fallen into a deep crater, slipping on damp lichen at the edge of the path. He was in a place he had never been before. The forest seemed completely different. He couldn't remember it looking like this before. The trees stood motionless like tall towers. But they also seemed to be moving, breathing, almost sighing with relief, like waves moving up from the trunk to the crown. He realized that he had been walking in a strange tension, as if something terrible was about to happen. He had no idea where this feeling came from. Maybe it was related to the past, to the terrible fate of his mother. Maybe the trees understood his suffering. Of course, it was only his imagination. But his understanding of the trees seemed to have changed. He felt a new contact with the forest, a closeness to the plants and trees that was extraordinary. It seemed to him that his mother was hugging him, as though the trees, shrubs, and plants were his mother. Storm clouds are now covering the sky, and suddenly, close by, lightning flashes so violently that the sound pierces him through. His nervous system is suddenly besieged by spontaneous memories. A shot rings out. Mom is holding his arm tightly. Suddenly she screams, falling unconsciously onto her face and pulling him over behind her. Her dark hair is drowned in blood. His mind breaks apart in a fraction of a second. Now he sees only red everywhere. Crying children, desperately pleading women, and the screams of men shattering his skull, wet with tears and blood. The image is now dissolving in a torrent of rain, while the sky, like a tornado, is drawing up his remaining memories. And in a moment Sylvester feels that he is swimming in the rain. The storm is relentless and unending, and it carries an energy that grinds memories into dust. Sylvester is lying huddled on the ground, water streaming down from the clouds, easing his tormented mind and body. Then the clouds open up to the sun. The earth is turning to vapor, while the plants, both small and great, speak a language that sounds familiar to him, although he can't understand it. He listens carefully to each sound. The bark of the trees looks like rocks, the slender grass like daggers, the dark green juniper bushes and the leaves of the alpine roses touch him deeply, rooting into his mind and body. His eyes have become the eyes of the trees, and their gaze goes far beyond anything he thought he knew or could recognize. A strange, damp breeze is rising from a cave deep beneath the forest, carrying a strange scent that reminds him of nothing. The depths of the earth cares for the forest, while the forest in turn protects its mysterious interior. How did it happen that memory had lost control over his mind? The forest intrudes decisively into the neuronal process of the brain and brings it closer to reality, transforming it into a multi-dimensional universe without time. Sylvester, in Illumination, discovers that he is at the very beginning of his journey. The world is the green innards of some great organism, and the sensitive, living tissue of the forest does not allow light to transfer useless knowledge about its existence. I, Sylvester, cease to exist, say all living beings. Muototal, the Canton Schwyz, Switzerland, are no longer points on the map when this unknown space appears. When soundless galaxies drift down to a patch of ground